All right. Well, thank you for joining us here. We're going into the second breakout panelists, and this is the last panel. I think this is a perfect way to follow it. We talked a lot about the sustainable aviation fuel, talked about the Z45, and one thing I heard when I was sitting there kind of taking in the farmer perspective is I heard that in the local market where that yellow circle was, there's going to be a higher demand for soybeans. And that could drive some value. That could maybe offset some, create some premiums, not necessarily only around the Z45, but think about basis. Think about the competition around that for that crop, right? So there's definitely going to be more value for soybeans. And so this one's called the High Yield Soybean Panel. Meristem, we want to focus a lot around being the high yield soybean company. There's a lot of companies focused around corn. Corn is king, especially in this part of the world. But in a lot of geographies, corn is king, and we love corn, and we love a lot of other crops that we focus on as we grow our footprint. But soybeans is a place we're putting a lot of focus because we think there's a significant amount of value to the farm in soybean production and being more efficient and driving more yields. And we think we got some of the tools and ways we can do it to make that possible. And that's what we want to hopefully get out of the panel, these smart guys that are up here today. So one thing I do have to pick on quick. How many people went to the Ohio State University?
Where's that at?
Exactly. Where's that at? Dr. Kessberg, thank you very much for raising your hand there. Appreciate it. But so the reason I mention that is Rob McClellan, who did the last panel, he is the Ohio State graduate, and because of that, we have been deemed the high yield soybean company. So I just want to mention that. So that annoyance, if it annoys you, that's just because it came from a Buckeye. So anyway, I'm Peter Rustinellis. I'm our SVP Sales Business Development. Most of you guys know me. I did help develop kind of our high yield soybean program. It's constantly changing. John here is a farmer on our panel, and we actually have some farm ground together that we farm. And John's a high yield soybean chaser, and we constantly are talking about how to improve. And so with that, we've incorporated some of that into our offerings as Meristem and what we tell you that we think are the best practices to go about and capture as much yield as possible in the soybean space. So that's how I kind of got, I'll call it credit for that, but that's really a pretty large group effort. I did grow up on a vegetable farm not far from here, about 2 hours away. I grew up in the vegetable and grain business, so that's a little bit unique. Spent a lot of time in this space. I call it the crop additive, chasing higher yields, utilizing additives and things that you don't necessarily need to raise a crop. And I've done it through the lower commodity prices all the way through the higher commodity prices and all the way back down. So I can tell you I'm living proof that it is a sustainable way to make a living. And I think the reason is because we got to be good educators to the farmers. So spent 10 years as a sales agronomist and spent a lot of time in retail. So our objectives for this session, so these are the big things I want you to take away, is understand for your dealership or your farm the business opportunities available through soybean innovations. We hope to hear, we're going to hear about research that Meristem's invested in with AIP Ingenuity Partners, with John Brockmeyer and his team, to better understand how, we've got this thing called biocapsule, right? And we talk about how it's a great delivery mechanism, but does it work? I mean, does it actually get to the seed? Does this thing actually treat every seed evenly? Or are we just full of you-know-what, and it's just one giant Fugazi? Does it actually work? We did spend the time to find out if that's the case. Learn how we're sharing and protecting the risk on replant for growers. We got Don here with Vane Insurance, who's going to talk about that. Discover the pipeline of things to come. So if we can check the boxes and validate that it covers and validate and tell you that we can de-risk the opportunity, then we're going to go to John Gertz over here, our COO of Meristem, and say, what's that mean for technology, John? What's that going to mean for the farm? What's coming that we can take advantage of through this system? And then finally, and most importantly, hear directly from a farmer as to how you can actually use this. Again, are we full of it? Is this for real? Does this work? And how it has created a real productivity gain on a farm. So I want to take a quick chance to let the panelists introduce themselves. Starting out here with Dr. John Brockmeyer, please.
Thank you, and I guess we need to update the picture here. That is the same guy.
But I'm John Bachmeyer. I'm Director of Ag Ingenuity Partners, which is the research division of Advanced Agrilytics. We specialize in on-farm spatial research. And what that means is we are interested in isolating how various products work in the different environments that occur in every field. So we know we can't predict the weather, but if we understand how products respond to environments, that gives us the tools to increase our probability of success with products regardless of what Mother Nature throws at us. And that's really the basis of the research that we've doing. So I've been in some form of research for the last 15 years in agronomy, and I look forward to being able to share some of the results from the work that we've been doing with Meristem this past year.
Thank you very much. We also have Don Preiser here with Vane. So Don, just give us a little introduction, please.
Yeah, so I've been in the agricultural space for just about 40 years now, a decade with Deere, where I built an insurance company on the federal crop insurance program. And then the rest of my time has been spent in other forms of ag tech and insurance and reinsurance. So basically developing solutions for the agricultural sector, and more recently focused on more unique solutions specific to the agribusiness community. So an area that has never had production risk coverage available before.
Awesome. And a lot of us already know John Gertz, or Gertzy.
Hi, John Gertz. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Meristem. In my past, I've been doing this for a little while, so yes, I definitely remember Roundup Ready when it came out. I've had previous experiences both in the agrochemical sector. My background originally was I was kind of part of Roundup Ready on the science side. When I was at the University of Georgia, I got my degrees and my master's and my research work done in transgenic engineering and helping to move the chimeric structure of CP4 EPSPS from tobacco into soybean into corn and all other kind of different crops. So ever since then, it was just making sure that everybody got what they needed, when they needed it, and how they needed it.
Great. And last but not least, and most importantly, John Torrance, if you please take a moment to introduce yourself as a farmer here. Chasen done very well in the high-yield soybean market. We heard a lot about it over the last couple of years. Give us a little introduction on yourself.
Thank you. Yep, I'm John Torrance. I'm a ninth-generation farmer in West Central Illinois. In 2022, I placed first in an internal soybean competition through Golden Harvest in the state of Illinois, and I was third place in the nation. I just have a passion for growing soybeans. I'd like to push them, and a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback that a little bit with, I've known John and Torrance Farms, his dad Stanley and Heidi. I know they're present here. I'm not sure if they're in this group or the next group. You know, I think about soybeans, and they gave me a lot of confidence around soybean. I always thought soybeans were kind of the thing you planted when you didn't plant corn. And you know, it was a rotation crop for corn. You know, spend all your time and energy on corn, and then, you know, plant some beans, and, you know, hope you make, you know, in our market even, hope you make 45, 50 bushel and pays the bills and move on. When I got around Torrance Farms back in 2008 and working alongside them for a long time, you know, they proved to me that beans are a real crop. And they're saying, what are you talking about, 50? We're raising 70, 80. We're paying more bills with our soybeans, or as many as we do with our corn. And it's just as important, if not more important. We look at the cost today, not only the cost of money, but the cost of inputs and things that we can, we look at ways that we can drive more revenue on the farm. Soybeans, when you start to get into those higher yield, no matter your geography, whatever that means, when you get into that higher yield category within soybeans, it becomes very, very rewarding on an economic perspective. Would you share that commonality, John?
Yep.
I mean, I look at, you know, the high management. You know, we've got a high yield soybean program that we'll touch on a little bit later, that walks through steps and kind of what we do every stage of the way through the crop and why we do it. And you'll hear about that when you go out into the breakout sessions too on our high yield soybean programs. That is one thing I want to make sure everybody takes away from that is why. Why are you making that application? And I think, John, would you agree? I think in that application we've found things that have worked. If you just want to touch on that real quick, just from a systems approach and the way you've managed soybeans, and how, what's that look like for you? Because it's beyond 2 or 3 applications anymore.
yeah.
I know that.
Absolutely, yeah. We are out there sometimes, weekly back to back, but, usually no more than 14 days, and we're making an application of something. And, guys talk about plant stress a lot, and most people, first thing comes to mind, drought or maybe excessive rainfall, but nutrients, whatever nutrient you lack is actually your biggest stress to your plant, and we try to manage that with a lot of these products, and then disease management is also extremely important for us.
So managing it, managing it much like the Southeast manages a cotton crop, multiple applications throughout the season is creating a lot of benefit. So with that, we want to start, I think, with something that was missing out of that. Managing all these things in season, that was driving yield, but I think one component that was missing was something we could do at the planter. So at the planter, a lot of guys, corn, we talk about starter and things that we can do to get that crop off to the best start. We first introduced Revline Hopper Throttle Soybean, and John was one of our first early adopters. And just share a little bit about your experience. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I just remember that was kind of, this one thing I use all the time when I talk to people is it helped helped bring the lower up, more consistent. Could you share with us just a little bit beyond what you do in season, the introduction of the Revline Hopper Throttle system and how that's impacted your farm?
Yeah, so it's extremely easy to use. We do run a 2x2 fertilizer program on our planter, but the hopper throttle pail covers a lot of most people's needs. And the first year I used it, we did some digs. The beans were maybe only 2 inches tall, and we had some side-by-sides, and the root mass was double on the soybeans that we had treated with the hopper throttle versus non-treatment.
Yeah, great. So it's become a tool to be able to increase that early establishment and drive that, build that plant factory and get us started so that what we then do in season, we can actually capitalize on that much more. So with that, we've decided to take the biocapsule technology to the next level. What else can we do? We learned that we could deliver some inoculant, we could deliver a little bit of biofertility, and as John mentioned, some biostimulant. We learned that we could increase nodulation, increase some root mass, get better establishment, and take advantage of the applications that were to follow and create a yield gain. But what I want to dig into here with Dr. John Brockmeyer is that sounds good, but now we're getting into biocontrols. You're hearing about pre-phyte and metalaxyl and fungicide applications, and those are things that we relied on through a seed treater at one time. And that seed treater looked like it covered really, really well. And so now we're starting to look at that market saying we think we can do it as good as a seed treater, and we know we can bring more of this innovation to the planter box right at the farm, and that innovation is going to grow. But before we can really take that big, massive step, we have to prove it to you. So John, if you could just share with us a little bit of what you guys have discovered through the research around the biocapsule. And I'll just give you the control for right now, so you can swipe through a couple of those as you go.
It's the green button.
Yes, sir. Push hard.
Okay. So this will be the quick test to see if we're actually, I got your attention yet. But I got 2 bags of beans up on the screen. And just as a show of hands, this is a layup question. Do we think that the reddish pink has been treated? If those soybeans have been treated, raise your hand. All right, outstanding. And so for the rhetorical question, why would you say, or why are you confident that they've been treated? Because there's color. We are associating color with treatment. Now, nobody would have got this question wrong because the other package of soybeans has been treated as well, and it's been treated with our biocapsule formulations from Meristem in the hopper throttle pail. But as Peter said, the question that we had is, you can't see it, and so we wanted to understand, is it actually there, and what's happening when we go and take a look at this in production fields of soybeans? And so really we had a couple of key objectives that we were looking at this spring, and it really centered around being able to determine when you go out and you plant utilizing the biocapsule delivery system, are we getting the bacillus or that pre-phyte on seed throughout the course of planting? The same for metalaxyl. Are we able to see that occur throughout planting on the seed? And then ultimately, if both of those components are there, what does it actually do when we compare the overall early season performance to a grower standard F&I seed treatment? And so that was really the 3 clear objectives that we had for this research, and being able to understand what is the overall seed coverage and effectiveness of this treatment option. And just to give you guys a quick background and what we were doing, we had a split planter design where we went out to the field and we were taking our grower standard seed treatment on one side of the planter, and then we had untreated seed that we then treated with the Revline hopper throttle pail and the biocapsule delivery system. And then we went out and we planted essentially an 80-acre field, because we were doing 40 units of each in a split planter design. To understand if we actually had coverage of these components on the seed at 25% of planting of the plot, 50%, and 75% of planting, we stopped the planter and we collected samples of seed, and we sent that off to SGS labs in North Dakota to be able to test for the presence of bacillus and metalaxyl.
So John, real quick question. How did you apply this to the planter? So did you take every seed and just sprinkle it on every seed individually so that everything would run great for the test, or did you stick it in and mix it around? How was this applied? I see the split planter. I see the sample analysis, and I understand that you sent it off, and 25 and 50 and 75% pulled those samples. How did you apply it?
Absolutely. So as the seed was getting loaded in, they were dumping the pail in. So there wasn't any special mixing or adjuvant process other than as the seed was going in, the pail went in, and then from there on out, it's what came out of the planter is what we're measuring.
So you added it just like I would add my fluency agent on the farm?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
All right. So to understand what was actually happening from a emergence, stand count, and overall plant growth, that's when we went to the field and we collected and took observations. And what I have outlined here on that far side is how we think about fields and understanding the environment. I said we want to understand environment, and you can see there, whenever we set up a protocol and we have strips running through the field, we don't want to just walk across the field and collect information in 2 adjacent plots that are next to one another, because they could actually be in different environments. What we want to make sure is that we are collecting observations from each treatment and what we would call that saturated acre, or where water is going to be running to, as well as in that water limited acre, and you can think about that as the top of the knob. And so for this protocol, in each of the fields where we applied this treatments, we went out and we took stand counts at emergence, and then we came back at V4 and we measured overall plant mass to determine if there were differences in the grower standard versus the biocapsule delivery system. We did have 10 locations where we conducted this protocol, and I've got the locations there on the map. You can see from Ohio to Iowa, we had good geographic distribution, as well as planting dates from April to June. So we were really being able to capture a lot of different environments with this protocol to ensure that the data would be representative of what happened in the countryside. All right, so if we take a look at the data that came back from bacillus, and again, when you have bacillus, this is an organism that is really around everywhere, but what they do is they grow it out in a petri dish that's selective media for bacillus to grow. And then we talk about how many colony-forming units you get per gram of seed, so CFUs. So what this graph is showing you, at 25% of planting, 50% of planting, and 75% of planting, what was the CFUs per gram of seed that was able to come back from the samples? That black line is what the industry standard is, of 100,000. So what you can see here is with this delivery mechanism, at all 3 time points in planting, we were delivering above the industry standard for CFUs for bacillus. So again, this delivery system of being able to bring a living organism to the crop in the pail and have nice distribution, it definitely passes that test. And when you compare that back to what would be on a seed treatment that wasn't receiving a bacillus in your standard F&I application, you're really looking at a 10x increase in the amount of bacillus that is being delivered to the seed through this technology. So it passed the first test of bacillus.
So John, when I see this, obviously I see that scale going up and up, but really what matters as the producer, what you're telling me what matters is anything achieved over that black line is a increase over what is typically being delivered currently through any type of, I call it liquid seed treatment if we're using a bacillus-based product, a biological-based technology, because obviously some exists in the soil already, right? We've got some things that exist
Absolutely.
already. So this is a measure against what would be industry standard applied to a seed, and we came in 100,000 above. Am I understanding that right?
You're understanding that correctly, and that's where that knoll or that orange line, that's what was naturally occurring on seed that hadn't been treated with this system. So again, to your point, there's bacillus that's everywhere, it's out there, but not nearly at the levels that we see with this treatment and above the industry standard.
And we're talking, in this case, pre-fight
Yep.
is one of the biologicals or bacilluses that was tested within the system. And pre-fight is one of our 2 steps to creating a full control fungicide package delivered through the biocapsule. So that was one of the compounds that was tested in this study, correct?
That is correct. All right. So the next compound that we were taking a look at was metalaxyl. And again, the same time we were doing the 25, 50, and 75% for the bacillus to document the pre-fight component, we took another set of samples at that time to send in to determine whether or not the presence of metalaxyl was on the seed at that time. And just showing you the results from the lab here is that at all 10 fields, at all 3 sample points, metalaxyl was detected. So again, both components were able to deliver to the seed throughout the planting time frame to where the lab was able to detect these components. And so, as we said, we had really 2 components of interest in this protocol. One, seed coverage. So we can see that the seed is being covered with these products. The next component is what's actually happening when we get it out in the field and compare that to what we see against the grower standard F&I treatment. So the first graph here is just looking at stand counts at emergence. And so as I was showing you before, we go out to 2 areas of any given field to take counts. We have the saturated acre, which is that yellowish orange bar, and then the water limited acre, which is the red bar, and then that blue bar is the overall average. And this data is compared back to the control. So 100% overall stand counts compared to the control would mean they're exactly the same. And you can see a slight variation between the saturated acre and water limited acre. Take-home message is performance as it relates to emergence and stand counts between these 2 treatments is similar. So it is as good as what we see out of the current grower standard F&I seed treatment.
So you're telling me in that case, just based on what I'm hearing you say is just based on emergence, right? Whereas a lot of times we check our soybeans as they come out of the ground to say, okay, hey, I applied this treatment or I did this, am I seeing that value in the first early establishment of the crop? And in that case, just segmenting just the pre-fight metalaxyl portion that we're now delivering, these valve controls that we're delivering through this planter box treatment, you're saying that at this stage, it was as good as liquid seed.
Yep, equivalent to what was out there with the current seed treatment.
And John, I know you used some of this year, right?
Yes.
And experiences with the usability, how it applied to the seed, out there on the farm, right? We've realized here coverage is excellent. What are your thoughts around usability?
So it's a fairly high-use product. Made me nervous, honestly. We've all put too much talc or graphite in the planter and caused issues with flowability. We don't have those problems with this product. And it does seem to, you can dig seeds up and look at them. Visually it seems to coat it, but obviously they're doing it in a much more scientific method to study that. So visually I can totally back that up. It seems like a great product. Emergence is a little more even and a little quicker also.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
All right, the last component that we talked about was coming back at V4. And what we did is we removed 10 plants from each of the target locations and those 10 fields for the 2 treatments, took them back to the lab and weighed how much actual vegetative plant mass was in each of the treatments. And again, it's set up in the exact same way of the 2 environments in the overall. And again, you can see 98% compared to the grower standard, a little bit better in the water limited acre, a little less in the saturated acre, but again, that across the field, it's coming out overall to pretty much a wash. So again, we would see that as we compare back that early season development of the soybean plant between these two treatments, we really wouldn't be able to detect a statistical difference between what we're seeing with these two products. So again, just a quick summary. The biocapsule technology delivered both components, and we see equal performance between the grower standard seed treatment to the biocapsule delivery of the bacillus and metalaxyl as it relates to early stand counts and plant mass.
Excellent. Any questions? I guess questions. This is game changing what we're talking about here, right? This is completely changing how we're thinking about treating seed today, right? This is an opportunity for your dealership, an opportunity for the farm. Questions?
Peter, for all our brothers here and sisters and partners that have liquid seed treaters, if you like treating liquid seed, God bless America, keep going. How would you think of that from a market perspective?
So from a market perspective, I think about who I can, what can I sell outside of the ring of my treater. So if everything's being equal, and what I'm hearing is the efficacy is the same, very similar, it's an opportunity to grow my business beyond the ring of what I can do with a treater. So if you love your treater, we're good with that. The way I look at it is, everybody's probably got, let's just pick on somebody. You guys, any Dynagrow beans sold in your market? Any Dynagrow from Nutrien? I don't think there's any Nutrien representatives here, right? Oh, we got one? I'm sorry. Anyway. I worked for them for a little while. Well, anyway, not the case. I use them as an example because a lot of times you're in competition with the larger nationals, right? And so if you got a seed business and you're out treating, it's an opportunity. If you got a customer buying some of their acres of either Dynagrow or Stein, whatever competitive brand, it's an opportunity to go outside of your treater, go to them, sell them a product that can provide them the protections that they're getting today from that liquid seed treatment. Maybe get them to buy those soybeans naked. And we got a little saying go naked. You see on the middle of the table, you got a bunch of naked soybeans there. That's to help drive that message as we thinking now as we get into selling season, thinking about, hey, if I'm not going to use it in my current space, what competitor could I go and get the grower to buy them naked from them and move that business to me in a way that I don't have to run it through my treater and I don't have to take on that asset expense. I can just sell it through the biocapsule. So it's the way I think about growing the business if I were in those shoes. So any other question? One question I'd have real quick is, what about, we talk about planter sizes, 12 row, 24, some areas 48. When these tests were done, were these pulled from the center 2 units?
Yep.
We talk about center 2 units, the center wing. Are we talking about the end rows?
Yep. So we were talking on the outside wings, the middle of that. So we're not taking from the middle of the planter, but the middle of the outside wings is where we were collecting the samples consistently throughout each of the passes.
So we're going worst case scenario.
Yep.
Awesome. Yes, sir.
You've got a grower that doesn't want to give up his protection against SDS, the pesticides, so it's already treated. How does it appear to be treated seed?
Do we have an answer for that, John? Adhering to a treated seed?
That's a great question. We did have a subset of these where we treated it with Alivo and then added this treatment on and did not see any differences in the product as it relates to the coverage.
Hey, Peter, we got a question at this table. What about replant? Is there a replant insurance policy behind this?
It's a great segue, Jen. Thank you very much. So the next question was replant. Okay, this stuff worked. Okay, you're telling me this stuff's it's covering. I got you. I believe you. It's covering. We're getting past that. Awesome. My next question is, what about replant? I got a blanket I get to go to bed with at night from my where I get my seed treatment currently that provides a little bit of replant coverage. So if I walk away from that, what does that mean for me if I adopt this way to treat soybeans? So with that, Don Preiser with Vane, I'll let you get started and touch on that, please.
Sure. So first of all, before I start actually about kind of the foundation here, we've actually had a replant program in place for Meristem since 22. So we've had plenty of experience in working with the products and working with you as dealers with those programs. So first of all, Vein, the business, was created specifically for the agribusiness community, because growers today, as you know, have federal crop insurance to protect themselves. And one of the coverages that they have, of course, is replant coverage. But most growers will tell you that the amount of recovery under the federal program for replant doesn't really cover all their costs, right? It doesn't necessarily cover all the equipment, employment and fuel and other types of expense beyond the cost of the seed. So replant guarantees are a value add for most growers. So focused on agribusiness, we create customized solutions to any type of agribusiness that sells a product or a service to a grower, where the agribusiness's income or balance sheet are at risk if that grower does not either plant the crop, they have a replant scenario, or they lose that crop somewhere during the production cycle. So think of yourselves as seed dealers. You're an agribusiness. You have that some of that exposure. You could lose all of your revenue if customers didn't plant a crop because of a prevent plant environment. Anyone that's in the custom farming realm, so you're a custom planter, you're a custom sprayer, you're a custom harvester, they're all at risk of losing revenue, and they have balance sheet risk as well. We write solutions for that. We also do things around the specialty type of growers that may work with processors, so edible beans, malting barley, where, again, federal crop program doesn't provide solutions necessarily that fit either the grower's needs or the agribusiness that might be in there. So everything is customized, to whatever the agribusiness needs are.
So Don, with that, going into this, I know we've got about 15, 20 minutes here, and tell us a little bit. You offer customized options within this insurance realm, private insurance realm, and what we're excited with at Meristem, we have worked with them for the last couple of years to provide a replant policy that is available at about $20 a unit payback, and it's been very successful within what we've done to date. Now, that was on our liquid seed treatment now. Now we're moving into making sure that we can provide like coverage if you move towards the biocapsule. Tell us a little bit about that and how that'll work for the farmer.
Right. So we're going to extend that program that applies to the two products today, Race Ready and Race Ready F&I, I guess.
We're going to apply that to the pre-fight and metal axle through the pail.
Correct. So now we bring in this third product, and that will be included in that replant guarantee program. So you'll know then that any customers buying that product will have that replant guarantee, and it'll be the same process. And I think, let me see if I.
How do I, as a producer,
Yeah.
how do I facilitate that? So I could get a replant policy that'll cover me at $20 a unit if I have a replant claim through this. How do I facilitate that?
Right.
And as a farmer?
Peter, just real quick, I want to make a big clarification. It's not a policy to the dealer. It's a legal thing.
Sorry.
Just so we buy insurance from Vein, Meristem. We're the insured. This has nothing to do with insurance to the dealer or the farmer. We just provide $20 if there's a replant issue. I just didn't mean to interrupt. I just want to make sure we're not issuing insurance as Meristem. We buy it, and then we offer it as a program. That's all.
Replant program.
Yeah, when I put on my legal hat, I appreciate that comment, because that's right. We're not issuing an insurance policy to the grower or to the dealer. The insurance policy is with Meristem. Meristem is the one that's making the replant guarantee to the ultimate customer. So, just real quickly, you can see that everyone kind of benefits from having a replant guarantee. So it benefits the customer. It helps you as a dealership provide another value-added component to your relationship, and you're part of the solution to the customer. And then, Vane protects the balance sheet of Meristem. And why is that important? Well, we want them to be successful. I know Meristem wants to be successful in selling millions of acres of new product. That can create some pretty significant risk when you're providing a replant guarantee to that number of acres, and we provide the safety and security of an insurance policy that protects Meristem for that. Now, what's really different this year from the past has been that when you've had replant claims, you can submit them directly to Meristem, and you do that in a variety of ways, of a spreadsheet or other means. What we're rolling out now is an application that you can use, so either on a phone or on the desktop, and it's a simple setup account, and then whenever any one of your customers has a replant, you can use this application to quickly report the information. In completing this information, it'll immediately go to Meristem. It'll notify yourself back again as a record that it's been received, and it notifies us at Vane that there's been a replant claim, and we begin just in the background a validation process. So this can help in really facilitating the speed at which that replant is ushered through the organization. That's important, right? Because you have a short window of time for that farmer to replant that crop. So you want replacement product out to the dealership as quickly as possible. And this automates and we think simplifies that process. Not required. It's another tool available to you to make the process easier.
All right, thank you. So this replant guarantee is a way to add additional, to just de-risk this opportunity. One question I would have, and I want to ask the audience for any questions on this, is one question I'd have is, I've got replant insurance. I take replant insurance, and if I have a replant claim, I turn it into my insurance man, and I get X amount of dollars per acre for that replant. Does this impact that in any way?
No, it's a great question. This has no impact on the federal crop program or the claim recovery that you might be making under the federal crop program.
Excellent, excellent. Question?
Does it cover just the soybean pail, or is it all the pails?
Just the soybean pail. This is just something for the soybean pail. The fully loaded pail that has the pre-fight and metal axle. So in the past, we've been offering it on our race-ready F&I seed treatment, and it was a $20 replant guarantee to help you with costs that are associated with having to replant. Now that we've got pre-fight and metal axle in the pail, we'll be able to prove coverage with the work we did with AIP. We've got the confidence to go forward and offer this same guarantee that we're offering a liquid seed treatment in the use of the pail, as long as it's the pre-fight metal axle fully loaded pail. Great question. Any other questions? All right. Well, then with that, let's talk a little bit about pipeline. I think one of the comments we had here was SDS and nematicide, things like that. What happens if those are on seed already, and how does it cover? Which is excellent. Great answer. I know I can speak from personal experience. I know John, he actually had some fully covered beans and used this product as even additional fungicide control and covered great, even on those fully loaded beans. So we know that happens. But now my question is, okay, John, if I'm going to adopt this program, and I'm going to go away from potentially my seed treater, or I'm going to use my seed treater for some things, and I'm going to use this for some things. Is there more coming so that I can do more with this and maybe less with what I'm doing today?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Absolutely. So at the end of the day, we've talked a little bit about where we are now. And where we are now is we have 2 new biocapsules that we have added to our soybean pail, and we've gone ahead and we've launched that. We celebrated it this morning. But why do we have 2 biocapsules to accomplish complete below ground disease control? And the answer is the biology in the biocapsules. The first biocapsule is the pre-fight biofungicide. Outstanding technology, good broad spectrum technology, systemic, covers leaves, covers roots, does exactly what we want it to do. But there is one hole in the boat, and it's a big hole, and it's called Phytophthora. So we decided we love the biofungicide pre-fight. What could we put with it on the acre to fill that hole? And the answer was obvious. At a formulation level, could we actually get a concentration high enough to go through and not mess up seed fluency so that we could fill the hole on Phytophthora with metalaxyl? It took some work, both at a regulatory level and at a formulation level, and the answer is absolutely yes. So we've combined the two, which is why the slide on the left-hand side says it real simply. Product number one, pre-fight biofungicide, plus product number two, metalaxyl fungicide, through the biocapsule equals 100% below ground disease control. And this is exactly what we want. But is that it? Is there more coming? And the answer is absolutely yes, there is more coming. And it's not because we as Meristem are developing anything, it's because the industry is developing. It's a little difficult to see, but on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, Mitch and I were at a conference called CPDA, and they had done an extremely deep market research study into adoption and opportunity, specifically with microbiological technologies in American agriculture. And it was a small number, $316 billion. Seemed like something that somebody might want to actually go chase. The problem is of all the microbiological technologies that are being truly invented, because they're being screened right now, the industry, and I don't care whether it's one of the big four chemical companies or a whole host of others, they're doing screening on biologics and they're doing gene-edited microbiological work. They're trying to customize a microbe, basically. Well, the problem is they have one big problem in delivering it to the acre. They can't keep it alive. Well, what does biocapsule do? It keeps it alive. So the moment that we figured out we can keep microbiology alive, which we cannot do with a seed treatment, and why can't we do it with a seed treatment? Well, when you go through the seed treatment process, you introduce three very important variables which are truly death to microbes. One is high moisture, two is high temperature, and three is the atomization process, which is basically the equivalency of us being inside of a car at 100 miles an hour without seatbelts on and it suddenly stopping. That's going to go bad for us, right? So because of the biocapsule delivery system, we keep the biology alive, and this is what I'm going to call the great enabler. You know what I mean? The industry, the entire global industry is chasing this. The problem is they can't keep it alive, so the people that are discovering innovation have no way to get it to market in a viable way. Hopper throttle enables that innovation, which is exactly why we break through to excellence. And y'all look, I'm an analogous person. I view this in the same way, being a child of the 1970s, 80s, where they had all these wonderful new microprocessors coming back then. But all of a sudden, someone invented this thing called an operating system. The gentleman's name was Bill Gates. And it enabled all of the computer-powered discovery that was happening in the world. It applied it, and it changed everything as we know it today. It's exactly what the Hopper throttle delivery system is going to do. Change everything that we know it today. And I consider this, I call this welcome to the microbiological revolution. So, you know, we've only had 4 great revolutions in agricultural advancement to increase food production. This is the 5th after the genetic revolution. This is the microbiological revolution.
So with that, you know, we got 6 minutes here. We both know a guy who lovingly likes to say, innovation follows market access.
That's right.
Something we say a lot around Meristem. What does that mean for technology that's coming? We got pre-fight metalaxyl that we've launched. We're looking at some other biocontrols. What's that space going to look like? And give us a little.
Well, there was a question earlier talking about the eye side and or nematode side, and that's exactly what we're doing right now. So we do not have it in time for announcing at this conference, but at Commodity Classic coming up this February, we fully anticipate to have regulatory approval of 3 very important additions. Born S is what we're going to call it. That'll be our cis nematode technology. Born X will be our SDS technology, and additionally we'll have a white mold technology. Now, Part of this is we had to work with the pail, do some engineering, come up with a new biocapsule that can hold and expand the pail to 8 buttons, but we've done it. So what we expect to do at Commodity Classic is literally announce a complete, total F&I pail that can completely do what we want to do in a high production system.
And not to be left out, liquid biocapsule. We definitely this conversation was a lot around what we can do within the pail. But with that being said, we're going to see a lot of innovation come into that liquid biocapsule that John had mentioned earlier in the opening statements, and we're real excited about what could come in there. You start thinking about, now we've created the establishment phase where we've got the crop off to a good start. We've been able to prove that we can control the diseases, dampening off diseases, and other things through the deployment of those technologies through the biocapsule. And John, as we move into in-crop, and we think about high yield, that's what we started with. I get excited personally about the liquid biocapsule because we're applying foliar micronutrients, right?
Right.
We're putting on, here we are, right? We're putting on stuff at plant. We're putting on products, early vegetative. We're putting on products at reproductive stages. We're putting on products even beyond this.
Right.
Having the ability then to incorporate that liquid biocapsule that you saw earlier with a biofungicide, maybe something for white mold. Where does your head go with that? How do you think about that?
Well, white mold if you've ever had white mold, it's probably one of the most yield robbing and destructive things that can happen to a plant outside of nutrient stresses, wind, drought, things like that. So if we can control that, that's going to be a huge deal for us. There's so many things that are out of our control, but if that's one of them that we can control, I think it'll make a huge difference.
Anything else with the time we have left? I just wanted to touch quick. Appreciate the feedback from the panelists. I want to make sure we get opportunity here to take a minute or two to take questions. Just touch on this quick, in that you're going to learn more when you go out to the plots, but we've hopefully showed you and created some confidence around building that establishment phase right in the beginning, getting those plants off to a good start, having the confidence to be able to deploy biocontrols to manage your disease risks, that we can provide a replant guarantee, and there's more of this technology coming. With that, John, I guess give us a little feedback, if you will, on you've been successful. What was it, 113 bushel?
Yep.
Picked up the record there a couple of years ago. Still driving to exceed that record, I know, all the time. We've got a proven high yield system that you'll learn about when you go out to the plots. Any comments?
Yeah. So my 2025 crop planning and thoughts will start in the combine in 2024. Residue management is extremely important. We're rolling through the field. We want to look at why a certain spot in the field did, X amount of bushels. And so we learn from that. And then, excavator is a great product. Placement and timing, I think, depends on what your needs are. If you're a no-till guy, I would absolutely make that timing in the fall application. It'll get your nutrients broke down a little earlier. You'll have better emergence on your, whether it's corn or beans, either one. And then if you're going to grow corn, I would absolutely make that application in the fall also, because corn needs front-loaded nutrients where soybeans absolutely respond late. So, for a soybean application, make that in your pre-chemical pass or your post-pass. Either one will work great. And then we just want to move into, flower stages when we really start pushing nutrient applications. PGRs are important also. We want to make that plant feel good, and we don't want it to lack any nutrient.
Great. So with that, so successfully been able to deploy this system amongst others. Trust me, when you start getting into the north of 100 bushel, there's some things going on beyond this chart. But this is a great place for everybody to get started. Something to really consider as you look at producing high yield soybeans. Part of this panel discussion was the Meristem being the high yield soybean company, and we want to provide you the tools and give you the confidence that you can deploy these technologies through the biocapsule and utilize this system that we've talked about and that you'll learn about out in the plot. So please, when you go out there, keep your minds open to what they're going to show you out there, and we'd like to put a lot of messaging and a lot of energy around making you guys the best soybean producers in America. So with that, I'll we'll jump through this, but I'd like to take any questions. We're talking about taking costs out. That was just comparing if you were to load up all these things at plant that John's talking about doing, liquid starters, a lot of things that the high yield soybean guys do. We know we can provide that same value through this pail at a much lesser cost, more around the $24 an acre range versus $55. John, is this something? I mean, we're doing a lot of this stuff through liquid on the planter.
We are.
And this is something as we move, and that's working.
Yeah.
Right? That's part of the high yield program. And then as we move towards wanting to adopt that across mass acres, we can actually provide that at about a $30 an acre decrease, those same technologies, much like John Gertz showed earlier in the corn pail. So with that, I want to open it up with some questions, if there is any questions, and go from there. Questions? Oh.
Question?
So the question was, is the biocapsule technology patented, and what was the second part? Is it a source patent? So, Rob, want to help me with this? So the question was, is the biocapsule patented?
It is.
Yes, the question was, is the biocapsule patented, which it is, and then there was a second part to the question. I couldn't hear that part. I didn't know if we had I apologize. Can they access it? Yeah, they can access. Is it a source patent, and can other people access the technology?
No, we won't. We're not allowing people to use the technology. No, we'll toll it for them. But no, we just got it. We got it in November. This is the liquid ready is an extension of Article 7. You can look it up on USTOP. Question back here is why is there? What happened to the inoculant? And I explained we went to one capsule. John Gertz, could you talk about why we have less buttons and still have the inoculant?
Yeah, so what we have done is, short guys got to sit up to see. So what we've done is we've worked at a formulation level to get a super high concentrate inoculant, and it's also a super expensive inoculant. So to that end, we wanted to utilize it first and foremost in the soybean pail with pre-fight metal axle because candidly, we needed the space to open up a position in the biocapsule. However, as we go into future crop years, that will become the standard at an inoculant that we'll use in all of the soybean pails.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Why in the soybean program is Upshift C? Why aren't we talking about it?
Why aren't we talking about Upshift C in the plant pass? Great comment. So the reason is most soybean planters, aren't equipped necessarily with liquid. So in this case, we do use Upshift C. Right. John, could you elaborate a little bit? I mean, you've used it, so we're not saying don't use it in a soybean planter. The ether enzyme exists in this offering, which gives us that early phosphate solubility right on seed. But if you are set up for liquid and you want to do things liquid, absolutely. So go if you'd like to elaborate a little bit on that.
Yes. Yeah.
We are.
Yeah. The Upshift seed, the product we mix all our own, and it's amazing just how simple it is. You literally dump the bag in, have decent agitation, and it mixes up, and it'll stay in suspension for a long time.
The table. It's on the table.
It's on the table. Don't drink it. Don't drink it. It's in a jar. For those of you that see a jar and see something pink and think that's something else, that's not it.
I have a question over here, Peter, to the left.
Yes.
Great question.
We're going to have a limited launch on white mold was the question.
Yep. Great question. The answer is yes. So right now we're waiting on EPA approval for the 3 technologies, and we expect them in the 4th quarter of this year. So thank goodness for Miss Tiffany joining the company. We're going to go real fast with our state regs, and as soon as we get to federal regs, which we think it's all going to coincide roughly around this commodity classic time frame, we will have, like we did this year, what we lovingly call our first look pails, a limited availability of the fully loaded F&I, and being able to get some initial exposure for the 25 crop, and then we'll have full broad availability coming up for the 2026 crop as we basically get into next year's summer fill program.
Yep. Yes, thank you for the questions.